was the summer of 2004. Hotter than a pistol in Phoenix, Arizona. I had just joined ExactTarget. My role at that time at ExactTarget was to flesh out our network of agency partners, as we called them then. And I received an introduction to a young man, a very bright young man, erudite young man, who had just founded an agency called Mighty Interactive in Tempe, Arizona. This young man went on to build Mighty Interactive into a very, very powerful interactive agency, which was later acquired by another agency in Phoenix called Off Madison Avenue. He went on to sell that agency and founded his own company, Convince and Convert. His blog, by the same name, is the #1 ranked blog for content marketing in the world and the #3 ranked blog for social media. Jay Baer is one of the people that I really point to not only as somebody who's a driving force in our industry, making us better, keeping us honest. Most of all, I'm proud to call Jay Baer my friend. Please put your hands together for my good friend and a friend of all of us, Jay Baer of Convince and Convert.
Morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Wow, best introduction ever from my friend Joel. That was fantastic. Thank you, sir. I want you to put on your pretend hat this morning, which shouldn't be too hard because I think Katy Perry did enough pretending for a lifetime last night. Put on your pretend hat, and I want you to pretend that you are at a budget motel in Arizona, not the JW Marriott, a budget hotel, and that hotel is bad. It's this kind of bad. Maybe you've had an experience like that. What would you do about an experience like that? Now, historically, and in the social media business, when we say historically, we mean 2 years ago. Historically, you might trot on down to the front desk, and you'd say, this room is unsatisfactory, we gotta do something about this. Or maybe if it was a chain, maybe you would telephone, and you'd say, help me, do something about this. Or maybe you would even write a letter. If you remember how that works, we take trees and we flatten them considerably, and it takes a long time. It's a pre-ExactTarget days. Maybe you would write a letter. But now, just as often as not, you can pull out your iPhone, your Droid, your HTC, whatever you have, and you can express your displeasure in just a few seconds. That's the power of now. You could go to a site like TripAdvisor.com, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with, and you could leave a review now, like this guy did. This is the first review, that comes up on TripAdvisor for the Budget Host Saga Motel in Flagstaff, Arizona. Now, as you can see, this is not the kind of headline that we're typically looking for. I think I can feel death creeping upon me as I write this. Some of us felt that way last night, but you can't blame the hotel. It goes on to say, it's so gross, like something out of a horror movie. I'm about to walk out to my car and get my own blankets because this bed is so gross, I don't even want to imagine how many people are brought here to be murdered. Do not stay here. My wife and I are going to get tested for HIV because of this bed. Also, and this is by far my favorite part, also, the Wi-Fi blows. Now, that is a sign of the times, people. That is a sign of the power of now, because this guy puts murder, HIV, and Wi-Fi in the same amenity category, okay? That didn't happen 2 years ago, pretty sure. So here's the thing, okay? We talked about word of mouth. Matt just talked about the power of word of mouth and influence. Historically, if you had a negative hotel situation or a positive, it doesn't matter. The number of people that you could communicate your circumstances to is governed by definition by the number of people that you actually come into contact with. How many people do you see at work every day? How many people do you see at church? How many people do you see at your kid's soccer game? There is a finite number of people that we see. It's called word of mouth because it comes out of your mouth. How many mouths do you see? But now, it's not like that anymore, is it? Now this review goes up online and hundreds or thousands of people see that review. And a few more hundred or thousand today, which I'm sure they love. And I don't know for a fact, but I suspect that that review has had a fairly devastating result in terms of their ability to book room nights on TripAdvisor.com. Because as a traveler, that would be a bold decision, would it not? Like, the murder is a concern. But continental breakfast, I'm going to go ahead and book. I'm going to hit buy now. The power of now means that today, every customer is a reporter. Every customer is a reporter. And that creates a lot of challenges for us as business people. We have to, as companies, get faster, we have to get smarter, and we have to get even more social to meet the challenges and the new expectations that our customers have for us. And the faster part of it is what I want to emphasize this morning. Getting faster. Speed wins in modern business. And it's interesting because we've had to get faster a lot of other times in the past. We forget about it because it's an evolution over a long period of time. But we have always had to get faster. Right? There was a period, now granted it was a while ago, but there was a period of time that we did not, as business people, have to worry about answering the phone because there was no phone. And then, all of a sudden, we had to say, somebody needs to be in charge if this box on the wall makes noise. We had to transform our businesses because of the invention of the telephone. And then the fax machine comes out, right? A conspiracy by the curly paper industry to sell their wares. And then you could send a letter through the air. It was the devil's work. And we had to transform our businesses because of the invention of the fax machine. And then the web comes out, which has changed everything. Now, all of a sudden, our customers can reach us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had to fundamentally transform our businesses because of the invention of the web. And then email, something we know a little bit about here at Connections. Talk about something that has transformed business forever. I am deceptively youthful looking. I remember a time when we didn't have email. I worked in companies where we actually had to get up out of our chair to go to the next cubicle instead of bouncing off the satellite to send a message 18 inches. And today, email has so ingrained itself into our very existence. You send somebody an email today and they don't get back to you for a day, you start to freak out. You're like, is she sick? You start to think it through, like, what happened, right? You start to play games with yourself. Email has fundamentally changed the way we do business. And now comes social media, which is the most transformative of all of those, because it's the only one that changes the very relationship dynamic between companies and their customers. From its historical imperative, which has always been for thousands of years, company is master, customer is servant. Social media changes the relationship between companies and their customers, from master and servant to peer-to-peer. Social media dictates that we can't market at people anymore. We have to market with people. So it's the most transformative of all of those. But yet, we're not changing our businesses as the result of the invention of social media. We say we are, we think we are, but we're not. Right? It's an amazing selection of speakers today. But having a Twitter account isn't transforming your business. Unfortunately, for most companies, it's a tiny press release machine. Having a Facebook page isn't transforming your business. For a lot of companies, it's a really fancy Yellow Pages ad. Right? Having tools gets you nowhere. What you have is an opportunity to change how you do business. You have an opportunity to be social. Focus on that and focus less on doing social media. People talk about social media and technology and its impact, and we've talked about that this morning, but it's not about technology at all. It's about corporate culture. Pete talked about that a little bit this morning. You have to have employees in your organization across the entire sweep of your company that are rowing in the same direction. We have to acquire talent that we can trust to make the right decision right now. We've got to empower people in ways that were unthinkable years ago. Because here's the truth, right? The power of now means we cannot call a committee meeting every time somebody sends a tweet about us and say, what should we do about this? Because by the time you send out the meeting request, it's over. You've missed it. We have to get faster, and the way you do that is not with technology, it's with cultural alignment in your company. It's because people don't have to ask permission because they know how the company would handle different circumstances. And a company that does that exceptionally well is ThinkGeek. Some of you may know those guys. There's definitely some geeks here. ThinkGeek is an e-commerce and catalog provider of geeky stuff, like highly geeky merchandise. If you want an iPad case that's also an Etch-a-Sketch, a T-shirt with a guitar built into it, a Yeti coffee mug holder, I mean, that's the kind of stuff that they sell. And they are doing fantastically well because they sell to geeks, and they are geeks. All of them at that company. A lot. A lot. So much so that the first question you get asked when you apply for a job at ThinkGeek, doesn't matter what job, is Star Wars or Star Trek? That's the question they ask first. They still have Dungeons and Dragons night in the break room. Now, I think it's Wednesdays, in case you're in the neighborhood. When their community manager goes on vacation and somebody takes her spot, the goal is not to put your own spin on it. The goal is to make it seem like she was never gone. Because ThinkGeek is set up culturally to operate with one head and one heart. They move as a single organism. And their vice president said a really interesting thing when we interviewed him for my book. He said, how come car companies, as an example, but it applies to everybody, how come car companies don't hire people in every position that are wildly passionate about cars? And it is a fantastic question. Because if we are going to succeed with the power of now, if we're going to move as fast as our customers want us to move, we have to start hiring for passion and training for skills instead of the other way around, which is how we've handled business for 1,000 years. And in order to do that, we have to have lots of people in our company involved in these social media real-time processes, right? Today, in almost every company, social media is a job. Somebody in your company or somebodies in your company are the social media people. In fact, some of you, I'm sure, are here today. But social media is too important to be a job. Social media is going to become a skill. It's going to become a part of everybody's job in this room. Because everything important in business eventually becomes a skill. Everything truly important becomes a skill. You know what else used to be a job? Typing. Anybody watch Mad Men? They have an entire room full of women typing. That seemed perfectly reasonable. And then somebody said, you know what, this typing thing's pretty good. Maybe we should all learn how to do that. My first job, before I even met Joel, when I was a kid, I was an intern, and we had a lady whose job it was to make copies. She was the copy machine lady. Because you didn't make your own copies. Because you could lose a hand. It was a different time. It's a more dangerous era. But it seemed perfectly realistic. Well, yeah, she's the copy machine lady. Right? And now I can make copies from my pants. Right? It's a different time. Everything important becomes a skill. And we've talked a lot this morning and throughout this entire conference about tools and technology, and all of that is important. But at the end of the day, everything that Connections is about, everything that ExactTarget is about, everything that the other speakers today are about boils down to one thing, which is people. Social media and marketing and business are about people. Never forget that. Because at the end of the day, the power of now is actually the power of one. Thanks very much.